Thank you, Lenka. It's nice to see everybody. I'm just going to share the screen so that I can talk you through my slides. Lenka, are you able to confirm that people can see the first slide?
Yeah, we're all good.
Excellent. Hello, I'm Helen. It's nice to meet you. My Instagram account is not about the kids, not about the kids. If we haven't met before, welcome, Cambridge Social Media. It's the first time I've spoken to you guys, and today we're going to focus on hashtags on Instagram and how they work, how they can work when you get them right. I like the way Lincoln said how you harness their power, because they can be super powerful. A little bit about me first. I am an Instagram specialist. I set up Not About the Kids a couple of years ago to learn a new skill, to learn the skill of marketing oneself or a company on social media. I'm a former journalist and a former full-time mum, and now I use the skills that I've learned growing my Instagram account to help other small businesses to start marketing effectively on their Instagram. And what I like to tell you that I can do is help you create an Instagram account that works, not one that's massive, that has 100,000 followers. We can't all have 100,000 followers, but what my Instagram account does is it works for me. It has attracted the right people who are interested in what I do, that engage with my posts and that buy my work and use my services. So my Instagram account is working for me. Part of the reason for that is that I know how to use hashtags now, and I hope that will help you get your Instagram account working for you and your business. Coming up in the session, I will just sort of talk you through my hashtag story, my experience of getting to grips with hashtags. Then we'll talk about what you should be searching for, what hashtags are going to complement your work and your business, and how to identify those, what kind of size hashtags you should be looking for, and what even the size of a hashtag means, and content. You can't divorce content from hashtags. Hashtags won't solve the problem of not having good enough content that delights your ideal follower. And then we'll talk a little bit about insights, how you can keep track of the hashtags that you're using to see whether or not they're working in the insights, the analytics that Instagram provides us with on our posts. Just a little bit of housekeeping. Mostly what I'll be talking about is hashtag strategy around your main feed post, just because that is where you'll see the biggest benefits and rewards from having a decent hashtag strategy. You can use hashtags in stories, you can use them on IGTV, you can use them in Reels now, but the best results you'll see and the biggest reach you'll see is through using them well on the main feed at the moment. So that's mostly what I'm talking about, but we'll touch on the other things a little. But first, before you start looking for the right hashtags for your content, you need to be able to answer these superpower questions. What is your account about, actually? Who's it for, and how does it help them? If you can't answer these questions, then it's going to make discovering the right hashtags quite tricky. The clearer, more specific, more targeted your Instagram account is, the better it will work. Instagram loves a niche, and people like clarity. They like to know what they're getting from your account. So a little bit of this and a little bit of that doesn't really tend to work brilliantly on Instagram for most of us. Most of us need a clear, targeted account that's meant for a certain group of people, and forget about those people that it's not meant for. You can let somebody else worry about them. Just worry about your people and finding the hashtags that they're searching, that they're using in their work, and that will bring them to your account, turn them into followers, hopefully. So I kind of, for a while, thought that hashtags were sort of digital witchcraft, that nobody'd really sent me the memo on how to use them. I'd had really, a nice success in growing my account, in my posts, getting engaged with, getting comments, getting likes, getting shares. It was all good. And I knew that you could use hashtags on your posts, and I was using them. I was sort of sticking about 20, 30 hashtags on every Instagram post, kind of the same ones, using them over and over again. And they sort of brought a few views to my posts. You can see here, this is a post, I don't know when I posted it. That looks like late last year, I'm going to say. And then I used hashtags when I posted it, and the insights on that post, which you get by clicking just underneath the picture there, show me that from hashtags I got around 670 views, which is okay, you know, that's like a few people saw my account because of the hashtags I was using. But I'd never really like got the great big hits that I knew some people were getting through the hashtags they were using. They were actually getting new followers because of the hashtags they were using, and that had never really happened to me because I just hadn't paid attention to it. I hadn't even given it maybe half an hour of my time to sit and look at the hashtags I was using, whether there might be better ones that were more appropriate to my work. Once I started doing that, and in this session I'm going to talk you through the ways that you can do that too, that is when I started to see really big success on some posts with the hashtags that I'm using. I'll show you an example of what can happen when the hashtags, you know, you're using really work brilliantly. So this is a quote post, and that kind of post tends to work very well with hashtags anyway, that I posted more recently in the last couple of months. And if you compare it to the last one, there were 5,329 fresh eyes on that post because of the hashtags I was using. So that's my before and after. Before, like, my hashtags were okay, they weren't really working wonders. I didn't really believe actually that hashtags could be all that powerful. But once I started to focus on it, I started to see results like this. Not on every post. Hashtags are not a guaranteed hack for success on every post that you share. But when you get it right and it works and you can start doing that regularly, these are the kind of results that you can see on your account. And it brought some extra followers, at least 4 extra followers. When it says that number, I often think it's quite low. But you know what, if you're getting 4 followers, new followers from every single post that you posted, you'd be pretty happy with that normally, I'd say, and then getting followers in other ways as well. So lots of extra people are seeing my posts now because of the hashtags that I am using. That's the extra reach. So accounts reached. 66% of them weren't following Not About the Kids. So what changed? I started paying attention to what other people were saying about hashtags, and I started paying attention to the hashtags that I was using. And I did some homework by looking through lists of hashtags, clicking into them. Again, I'm going to go into this in a bit more detail in a minute. And doing that homework actually also led me to have a bit of a content rethink, because once you start digging into the communities that are using the hashtags that you would like to use, that are populated by the kind of people that you would like to have following you, then you start to notice what kind of content they're drawn to and what other people, what your peer group is sharing. And it does lead you to reflect on whether you could do better, whether you could share slightly different things, and what people are actually really enjoying and sharing with their friends and sharing on their stories. By doing all of this, it can also lead you to kind of take a step back and share better content, more appropriate content for your audience also. But hashtags are not an easy win. You're going to come away from this session going, oh, bloody hell, this is something else that I've got to sort of find an hour or two to dedicate to. There's just actually really no such thing as an easy win on Instagram or any social media without cheating. If you put the work in, you tend to get the results back out. I find that in all ways, and the job is never done. I was just looking at some hashtags this morning and realizing that I hadn't updated mine for a while, and I need to again put some time aside to check that I've got all the best ones in my notes that I'm copying and pasting over to my posts every day. Hashtags, though, are amazing. No, really. A post with at least one hashtag averages 12.6% greater engagement, so likes and comments and shares, saves, than posts without a hashtag. They really are worth your while investing in. What are they though? Like, what even is a hashtag? It's a word or a phrase that's preceded by the hash sign that you know, that's used on social media websites to identify messages on a specific topic. La la la. That's the kind of official way of looking at it. But how it really helps me to see it, and it's not my phrase, it's a phrase I borrowed from somebody else, but you're making your work discoverable and searchable by the people who are interested in what you do. That's why it's worth your while. Because if you don't use them, like this is my extra special Instagram diagram. So this little white dot, that's your Instagram family. That's the people who follow you already, your existing followers. This big grey massive black hole is all of Instagram, more than 1 billion accounts. If you don't put any hashtags on your posts, the only people who can access them and see them and discover them are your existing followers. But if you put the hashtags on your post, then the potential is there for many thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of people to search up your work and see it, become part of your community, follow your Instagram accounts. They're amazing. They allow you to find other people too, of course. Facts and fictions. A main feed post, you can use up to 30 hashtags on it. On a stories post, you can use up to 10. On an IGTV, you can use up to 30. And actually, I should update this actually to tell you the number of hashtags you can use on an Instagram reel, which is the new short form video function that came out a couple of weeks ago. I don't know, I reckon it's 30 as well, considering that you can use up to 30 on an IGTV. Maybe somebody in the group will have that information at their fingertips. You can post hashtags into your Instagram bio, but don't bother unless it is your own hashtag. So that's the hashtag of your brand. Like for me, that would be hashtag not about the kids, or a hashtag that you have created to encourage your community to share certain types of content. So procrastinating and start posting the content that they want to post. So I use that hashtag to encourage people to get involved in what I do. So if you've got hashtags like that, you can put them into your Instagram bio, but if you haven't, then don't worry about it. Myth busting. There is absolutely no secret special on your Instagram post if you want it to work, or only use 3 hashtags because otherwise it looks spammy, and you know what, it's nonsense. Use as many truly relevant hashtags as you can find, and there's also no special place to post them. I tend to post several hashtags in my caption, and I also post some in comments below so that it's not so overcrowded. I'm not sure if you'll know what I mean visually by that, but if you write your caption and then you maybe put 5, 6, 7 hashtags directly underneath, and then in the first comment or soon after you've posted it, you can post some more hashtags there if you want to keep your caption sort of clutter free, which is purely subjective. It's whatever you prefer. There's no right, wrong way or more effective way to do it. It's just how you want your Instagram to look. You can see that illustrated here. You know, I've got a few hashtags there on the left and then some more in a comment, and I've put 5 dots underneath before I've posted my extra hashtags, and all that does is it collapses the comments. If you go in and have a look at one of my posts, or you may have seen this about, but I just think it's slightly less messy looking again. So the challenge is how to find the right hashtags for your posts so that they will be discovered by the right people. This is the hard bit, right? You can like pluck out any old hashtags, but which are the ones actually that are going to do the magic for your account? I think that the best way to approach it when you're going to go away and do this exercise afterwards is to split your hashtag into 3 different categories, your hashtag types, I suppose, into 3 different categories. So that's number 1, what's in the post. Number 2, what is your industry? And number 3, who is in your community? Who are your audience? And they're really powerful in their own way. I'll show you how I do that on my account. So what type of hashtags? This is again another quote post, a text post. You may well share things like this. It's the words of a great branding specialist called Debbie Millman. I suggest you look her up. She's brilliant. Build something meaningful rather than build something fast. The length of time it takes for you to succeed is generally a good measure of how long you'll be able to sustain and enjoy it. My followers really liked that quote. So what's in the post? That's the first question. This is like the blindingly obvious. So Debbie Millman, success quotes, motivation nation, business advice, that kind of thing. Literally, what might somebody be looking for if they wanted to find a quote like this? What's your industry or niche? So my industry is social media marketing, and I know that is the case for lots of you guys too. So I would use hashtags such as this: the Instagram Lab, free social media tips, Instagram expert, Instagram tips and tricks, community growth. The key is that when people are using the hashtags, they want to find the kind of content that you're posting. Like, is it the right kind of content for people in your industry? Are they going to find that and go, oh yes, I'm going to save that quote, or I'm maybe going to follow that account? Then who is in your community, your ideal customer? And for me, that takes a little bit more thinking about. And my ideal customer is, generally speaking, a small business person, perhaps in a second career or post kids career, who's interested in ambition and work-life balance and branding and promoting themselves online, finding their confidence, all of those kind of things that make somebody my ideal customer. You need to be able to answer that question about your ideal customer, and then dig into the hashtag communities that they're posting under. Female founders rock, stay bossy. They might be looking for things to help combat imposter syndrome. They are success driven. They work from wherever. They're probably not working in a conventional office environment. They're probably working from home or from co-working. Those are my kind of people. Who are your kind of people, and what kind of hashtags are they using, and are they putting on their work? That's the really powerful bit, by the way, that third section, I think. Just an example of how another business might use them. This is Rachel. She's she's not just a wedding photographer, but she's a wedding photographer and family portrait photographer. Maybe that's the expression. What's in the post? It's a venue. So somebody might be looking for Stapleford Park or Stapleford Park weddings. They might be looking actually for a bride and groom portrait, or they might be looking for pictures of veils because they're searching for inspiration because they're getting married, who knows when, next year, year after. So that's what's in the post. What's in your industry? What's in Rachel's industry? So this is where things like location can become relevant if it's relevant to where you work. Like, I know for a fact that Rachel is based in the Midlands in Leicester. So she's a Leicester wedding photographer, Leicester wedding photos inspiration, wedding photographer society. That might be what bride and groom was searching for. They want somebody who's a member of the Wedding Photographer Society. They want a Midlands wedding photographer. What might people be looking for, and how can you make it as specific as possible so that you pop up in their searches? And who's in her community? Bride to be 2021, somebody who's getting married, bride girls, perfect, somebody's looking for the perfect wedding dress, or wants to put together a perfect wedding guide. A collection of photos, save them in their Instagram. I hope that makes sense. Lenka, are you going to jump in if there are any questions, or shall I just keep on going?
Yeah, absolutely. Keep on going.
Keep on going.
Questions or anything, I will jump in, but usually they
come at the end,
as long as it's not super relevant to a particular moment, but it's been fantastic until now, so just keep going. Okay, thank you. Just thought I'd check. Okay, so that would be the kind of way you put together an ideal list of hashtags for this different kind of content. And of course, you know, we all have probably several different sorts of posts that you post. You might, but you know, in Rachel's case, I know she also does sort of like baby photography and that kind of thing. So
she would have different lists of super relevant hashtags for 3 or 4 different kind of posts that she posts. I mean, I post quotes, I post videos, I post original photography, so I wouldn't use the same hashtags on every single one by any means. I try and keep them as relevant as possible, but they tend to fall into different categories, so it's not a case of having to rewrite your list of hashtags with every post. It's just a case of keeping 5 or 6 lists of ones that are super relevant to the content that you share. Where to find them? Okay, so when you're doing your research exercise, you're kind of looking in several different places. You're looking at what your peers are using. And by your peers, I mean people who are in a similar space to you, but not necessarily in the same kind of business. Like for me, I might be looking yes, at my competitors, at people who are also in the social kind of media game, but I would also be looking at people who are running hashtags and things that they're using too. So it's not, when I say peers, I don't mean people who are doing exactly the same thing as you. Those are your competitors, I guess, in the nicest possible way. We all tend to be friends on Instagram. So yeah, look beyond your industry to complementary industries, people who might like to follow you even if they don't do exactly what you do. Look also at what your followers are using, especially your best followers, your most engaged people, the ones who comment on your posts and chat to you in your DMs. What are they posting with? What hashtags are they using? And look in Instagram, they have tons of ideas for you, and you can search under tags by going to the magnifying glass icon. And then you start searching, either using a hashtag that you know already, or just using a term like Instagram tips, or it could be wedding cakes, or whatever it is that you are posting about. If you start writing any terms, then a list of suggestions is going to come up, and then you can investigate them. Oh, that's a video. I've forgotten I'd written down a video there. So what do I write? So I'm putting small business owner in there, and then that's coming up with a whole host of small business ownership, small business owners unite. That's a nice one. Small business owner problems. And then I've clicked in there to have a look at the kind of posts that are being shared there. It's really important to actually click into these hashtags and have a look at what people are posting, so that you're checking that you're not wasting your time. There's no point in posting in a hashtag where, you know, I was using hashtags in the past that was really based around lifestyle-y things and very kind of like whimsical pictures. And if people who were using those hashtags found my content, the chances are they weren't really going to like it. So a lot of the content that's shared in these small business owners rock, yes, they absolutely do. And a lot of that content looks like the kind of thing that my people would like. I would say that that would be a hashtag that I could use. So be absolutely sure to go in, especially if you're kind of going to put together a whole new list of hashtags, to go in and have a really good click around and search around at what other people are posting to make sure that they're relevant. Does the content being posted with that hashtag complement what you post? So this is another, so I'm looking at Leicester Wedding, like the example of Rachel. So Leicester Wedding, I would say, yeah, 100% that is the kind of content that Rachel should be posting her content next to. And then I've gone into one of the posts and I've had a look at what hashtags they're using. If you scroll to the right there, you're also getting lots more suggestions for complementary hashtags that help you compile your list. Modern weddings. Again, that looks like a really good one. Lovely photos. What a cool couple. You can have a look and see what other hashtags are being used on those posts and see if you can find some fresh ideas there. It's, like I say, it's a really nice way of having a look around to see what other people in your industry are sharing, and whether you can take some inspiration. A bit of thoughtful copying never did anybody any harm. And I just wanted to share and why you should definitely spend some time researching the hashtags that you're using. I used to share a lot of content around kind of like photography tips and video tips. I still do sometimes, like how to do things. And for months and months, I was using a hashtag BCS edits, and I understood it to be an abbreviation of behind the scenes edits that people used when they were sharing content that is about technical tips. And then somebody texted me one day and said, why do you use that BTS edits hashtag? Am I missing something? And I went in and actually had a look at it and discovered that it's all content related to a Korean boy band. So it was a complete waste of my time to be using it on my posts, a total waste of a hashtag, just because I hadn't been bothered to actually look at what was being posted in the hashtags that I was using. So learn from my mistakes. So size of hashtags is really important, particularly when you've got a smaller account and you're looking to grow to be a medium-sized one. Now, what do I mean by size? What I mean by size is the number of times a hashtag has been used. So when you type a hashtag into the Instagram search, like I have done here, Instagram tips, it will show you how many times that tag has been used and attached to other posts. So Instagram tips has been used 379,000 times. Underneath, you've got Instagram tips and tricks, 51,000 times. Instagram tips for business, smaller as you go down the list. Now, what we're trying to do is get our content seen. That's the point of hashtags. We want to get seen. So there is no point, again, I mean, going back to BTS edits, if we look back to that page, that's attached to 5.5 million posts. So if you're using hashtags that are huge and gigantic, and I mean by that over 1 million uses, generally speaking, your work is going to get completely lost amidst a sea of content. It's being used so much, like something like hashtag sunset or hashtags blue skies or hashtags love or something like that. If you look at the number of posts they're associated with, you'll see that there's no point in you using them generally. Excuse me, guys. I'm just going to take a drink. So your motto should be to go small to get seen, or to create a kind of formula for using different sized hashtags, a collection of different sized hashtags on each post. And if you're small, if you've got a small following, it's great to start with those smaller hashtags. Kind of 1,000 to 10,000 uses. They can be really golden when you've got a small account. I hope you're making a note of that. A nice formula might be to, like, if you're going to use the maximum 30 hashtags, to try and find 10 to 15 that are really quite small, maybe 5k to 20k uses. It can be hard to find the small good ones, but when you do, they can really work. Then another 5 that are 20,000 to 100,000 uses. And then another 5 that are like 100,000 to 500,000 uses, and then chuck in a couple of quite big ones on top, because you never know when your work might go viral. But be looking for those smaller, under 100k, really strong, active hashtags that really represent your work, and that your work is going to be, absolutely fit in with what other people are posting there. Those are the ones that you'll find will really work for you. Size matters. So once you've got your formula, what I definitely do not do, and have never done actually, even when I wasn't using hashtags so effectively, is I've never just typed hashtags in directly into every post when I post them, just pluck them out of the air. I've always kept a selection of lists of hashtags in the notes on my phone, so I can copy and paste them into your posts. So what you might want to do is create lists of hashtags that are super related to different types of posts that you make, like quotes and pictures of yourself, that kind of thing. And then you might want to keep lists also of different sized hashtags, so hashtags that are 1,000 to 10,000 in slides, another list with 1,000 to 10,000 to 50,000, 50,000 to 250,000, that kind of thing. Then you can mix and match and draw different ones together, freshen it up all the time. What you mustn't do is use the same set of hashtags every time you post. It's the kind of action that can lead to your account being flagged up as a bot or a robot on Instagram and get your work hidden from other users. So freshen it up all the time, but if you find a core group of hashtags that tend to work really well for you, especially on specific kind of posts, then keep using them again and again. So how do you know what is working? Well, you can have a look in your insights. If you go to post insights underneath your, got your phone out, underneath your most recent Instagram post. Where's that one? So I had a good one yesterday, but actually it wasn't so great with hashtags. So if you go to your post insights, and then what you're having a look, you're going to scroll down to the discovery section, which tells you all the different places by which your post has been seen. So it shows you that the overall reach, which is the number of accounts that have seen, the number of individual accounts that have seen your post. And impressions is the number of times the post has been seen. So underneath that, it will tell you that you've got impressions from home, which is from your main feed, so that's from the people that follow you. Then from hashtags, then from other, which is things like people sharing your post with other people or saving it, passing it on to a friend, that kind of way. Somebody shared it to their stories, that might be the way that somebody's discovered your post, and that just comes under the heading of other. And actually my post yesterday got onto the explore page, which that never happens, but if it's got onto the explore page, then it will show you that too. So what's my experience? People will sometimes ask me kind of like, what is a good reach with hashtags? And I would say that they're really, obviously a high percentage reach with hashtags is awesome, but there's no like rule of thumb. What you want to be doing if you're going to set about trying to really focus on up leveling your hashtag game is just to be looking at a percentage increase, be looking at the fact that you're making progress with your hashtags, that you're going, have a look through your most recent 10 or 20 posts, see what kind of a number of impressions you're getting from hashtags generally, change it up and look at every single post you're posting with new sets of hashtags and make a note of what's working and what isn't. Unfortunately, you can't see which specific hashtags you're getting the views from. It's really annoying. It'd be so helpful if Instagram showed us that. But just keep trying different combinations until you find ones that seem to win. It's a bit of an inexact science in that you can post using a set of hashtags one day and you'll get great results, and you'll post using a set of hashtags the next day and you really won't get such great results. So you just have to accept the fact that they're not going to work day in, day out. Probably you're going to have better days than others with hashtags, but so long as you're seeing a kind of an increase in the percentage rate of impressions that you're gaining from using your hashtags, then you know that it's working. And then when it starts to drop off again, you're like, okay, I need to freshen this up. I need to go and block out an hour in my diary and sit down and look for some new hashtags, look at some accounts that I find really inspiring, who I think are doing well. They're sharing the kind of content that I'd like to be sharing. They're getting the kind of engagement that I like to be getting. What hashtags are they using? And also what kind of content are they sharing? But yeah, if you feel like it's dropping away, then it's time to revisit it again. And talking about it to you today makes me feel like it's something that I ought to have a look at in the next couple of weeks as well. You can also have a look at specific hashtags and see whether your work is appearing in the search. So this one is stay positive and make it happen. And I went into that hashtag and I had a look through and I found a couple of my posts quite near the top. of the search results. The one with the flicky book and the stripy top. I'm wearing the exact same outfit today, and there's my mug also, which I'm drinking out of today. So you can see that it's working in that sense, that, you know, that hashtag, when people are using that hashtag and searching with it, my posts are coming up, whereas you might look at another one and you'll find you would be scrolling and scrolling and scrolling and you couldn't find anything of yours. So it is worth also having a look for your own content under the hashtags that you're using, to see if it's showing up relatively near the top of the search results. So some people I know who use hashtags rather brilliantly. Helen Marie is a trainee psychologist, and she pivoted her Instagram account actually from sort of London landscape photography to inspirational, positive thinking content, focused on having a good relationship with your social media. And I know that she is absolutely what's the word I'm looking for? Thorough in her hashtag research. And I know that when she switched her content over, she spent a lot of time finding new and relevant hashtags, because her content was changing completely. And she also explained to me that not only did she click into hashtags, have a look around, she also followed hashtags. She followed people that she found via hashtag searches, because she could see that their communities were just like her communities. You know, our own follows are a really powerful tool for ourselves, not just waiting for us to be followed by other people. So she goes into hashtags, she comments on people's posts who are using the same hashtags as she is, she follows them, she really becomes part of those hashtag communities, which are very lively. I mean, even if it's not something that you do, and it's not something that I do hugely, have faith that it is something that people do on Instagram. They are part of hashtag communities, and they follow them, and they use them to find new accounts to follow and new content to engage with. So you can become part of that. Forgotten Heritage Matt is a photographer, very different kind of account. He photographs old derelict buildings. Maybe he wouldn't call them derelicts, he'd call them something else perhaps, but he has huge success with using hashtags, but he is a bit more, I know that he just types up, they're very literal, the hashtags he uses relating to what are in his photos, because I think the engineering community, which is what he's part of, will be looking for quite specific images of things. So it's, for him, it's less about the lifestyle aspects and the less about the kind of like, I don't know, business community or positive thinking or that kind of thing. It's more more functional. Jan Murray UK, I'm sure lots of you guys will know Jan Murray, because this is a social media community. She, again, I know has had kind of a complete change in her hashtag strategy in the past year, and if you go through her posts, have a look at the hashtags that she's using, and also just observe the fact that some of her posts are getting incredibly high engagement, and I think a lot of that is down to hashtags and the fact that she changed her content strategy to reflect what other big players in her community were sharing. She used to share lots of just like pictures of herself and blah blah blah, that kind of thing, but she changed it completely to be kind of quotes and inspirational content and things that sort of triggered an emotional response, I think, in her community. That's the kind of, those are the kind of messages she shares. So she used hashtags to discover how to update her content strategy, which is also something that you could do. And Lois is again a London Instagrammer, I think they're called, and she shares loads of facades and things in London town. And I know that a lot of her success, her big following, has come from her work being reshared to bigger sites. So that's another way that you can use hashtags on your work to get seen. If there is relevant sites that reshare the kind of content that you post, and in London there's a big community of huge Instagram accounts with millions of followers that reshare all these kind of like lovely London you know, touristy images, and if you can get your work work featured on them, then that brings new followers to you. So her hashtag strategy is around that kind of thing, getting reposted. But in order to get reposted, you need to be tagging using the correct hashtags. So go and check out those guys. They're doing it. Right, Lenka, that's the end of my presentation, but I'd love to chat a bit more about any kind of questions that it's brought up.
Yeah, absolutely. This was perfect. Thank you so much. I think you answered already a couple of the questions that we had, because Claire was asking, what do you use to store your hashtags?
Okay, I know that I can't think of them off the top of my head. I'm sorry. I know that lots of people have note-taking apps. I don't use one. I just use the notes in my phone, but there might be other people in the group who can share recommendations for that. I'm sorry, I can't.
That's fine. And do you schedule your Instagram posts via any app, or do you add the hashtags in there, or do you add it manually afterwards? What's your kind of process with publishing?
Yeah, my process is very organic. I do post my own posts live, but I mean, I prepare them. People love to know how other people work, don't they? I do always write, generally speaking, write and prepare my captions and my list of hashtags probably the night before, because I often post first thing in the morning. That's just what works for me on Instagram. So I like to prepare it all the night before, so then I can just have another look at it before I post it in the morning. But I have scheduled. I've used Later as a schedule for Instagram. I like it because it's Instagram focused rather than some of the bigger schedulers weren't really designed for Instagram in the first instance. But I like Instagram, and I've also got Preview app, which I love Preview. They're a great, they create great content on Instagram. If you're not following them, their Instagram posts are really strong. But I know that both of those apps also have hashtag recommendation kind of functions within them if you're using them, so that can be another source of sort of good hashtag ideas. They also, I think it was Later does have some kind of tool within it that shows you which your most successful posts are with hashtags, but it doesn't quite show you what I believed it would, which is exactly which hashtags are working for you. It doesn't show you that. I have a feeling the more expensive tools like Sprout Social might have that kind of functionality within it. I don't use them. They're very expensive. You need to really have a big business, I think, to warrant that kind of expenditure on your social planning. But I hope that answers the question.
Are there any third-party tools that you use for hashtag research? You showed lots of strategies and there's lots of information within Instagram, but there are some apps like display purposes and similar that will give you some additional data potentially.
Yeah, the ones that I'm aware of are Later. Later did show me which of my posts had done well with hashtags, and that is helpful because it means you can then go and have a look at the post and have a look at, you know, which hashtags they've got in common. And you can, if you're up for some really serious hashtag research, then you can kind of work out what's working for you. But it's not. There was a very brief time on my Instagram Insights where it showed me my top 5 hashtags from each post, and then it disappeared. It doesn't tell you anymore. I so wish they would tell you which ones, because you always are searching around slightly in the dark.
Yeah, Instagram is one of those apps that we still want more analytics, longer than 7 days, more in-depth results that will tell you that it's still one of those platforms that there is lots of guessing going into.
Yeah, I think if you're prepared to pay for, I use Tailwind, but I use Tailwind for my pins, actually, for Pinterest, not for Instagram, although I anecdotally know of people who've had a lot of success using Tailwind. And I think some of the ones that, once you get into paying for it, you can get better analytics, but yeah. It's probably if you're running a big operation, or if you're a social media manager across lots of different accounts and things like that, that's the kind of thing that's worth the investment for me at the moment. I feel like I can get about enough out of it without doing that. But Later is good, and it's a fairly low investment, £5 a month or something if you want to get involved with Later. But it's a good scheduler.
And we had a question from Krisha asking more generically about Instagram. How often do you post, and do you have any suggestions on how frequently people should post?
Okay, well, you know what? If I posted more often to Instagram, my Instagram probably would grow faster. I know that's true. I've posted quite a lot over the last couple of days, and you know, you do just see that uplift in followers, in awareness, people sharing your content. But you know, we're all busy people, and probably all of us are just doing it for ourselves. We're just one person. So I try and post every single day to stories at some point. I find that easy to do, easy to deliver. It doesn't need to be it doesn't need to be hard work, and then I probably realistically maybe post 3 or 4 times a week to the main feed, and maybe share one IGTV. Works well on my account. I get good engagement with my IGTV videos. I know they don't work for everybody, so I try and do an IGTV every week, but again, that's quite labor intensive. There's quite a lot of editing involved. So yeah, I'm full of good intentions every week. I think if you can post every day, that's amazing. You'll see your account grow, but you just can't beat yourself up about it if that's not achievable for you.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would say quality over quantity. I would say it's better. I'd rather post once, twice, 3 times a week, but make sure that I put the time and effort into not only the visual, the caption, as well as the hashtags.
It's also time consuming. It's not just time consuming creating the post, writing the post, adding the hashtags, finding that then you have to engage, answer your comment, and that's probably the thing that stops me from posting most, is the fact that I know I've got to have the time to be there to answer comments, and you know, if I've got a busy morning, it's really hard, and that's been difficult the past 6 months, you know.
We have a question from Dave in regards to how did you find the horizontal list of hashtags that you scroll through when you were showing the video?
Oh, okay. So Dave, if you go into your Instagram and you press the magnifying glass, and in the box in the top, if you start searching, so I'll put social media in, and then you go across, it says tags. So if you press tags, that horizontal, oh, sorry, that's vertical. I'm really sorry, Dave. Right, okay, so you can't see that, doesn't work. Right, that's your vertical list. If you then click into one of those hashtags, oh God. Lenka, it's changed.
It does change. I have noticed that it doesn't show it with every single one of them.
Oh, it's changed.
Only occasionally it gives me the recommendation of other hashtags. I know exactly what you mean. And where we're showing, I'm like, yeah, I use that too. But then sometimes I struggle to find it on Instagram. It might be because of the size of the hashtags, and it works only with a very tiny hashtag, that it gives you more.
Dave, you've caught me out on that one, I'm afraid. Let me try and find a smaller one and see if they've got that horizontal. It seems to have disappeared. I'm really sorry. Now it just says your top and recent, and it allows you to toggle between them. So you can still get that list of recommendations there. Oh, that horizontal list of recommendations, which is the same thing, really. Sorry. Good question, Dave.
It used to work like that, definitely, very easily, and I've started seeing it disappearing or being very unreliable for quite a while. And
okay.
About why particular it's happening, I had a feeling that it shows up.
They're just always making these little tweaks and changes, and it's also not always the same on everybody's account either.
And I used to use it a lot on desktop, because sometimes when I'm planning content for some of my clients, and I use a scheduler and stuff like that, so I will be spending lots of my time on Instagram on desktop doing research, then it doesn't work on desktop anyway as well. So it might be that it seems to be a very recent, because I know I used it about 2-3 weeks ago, that it still was there. So it might be temporarily disabled, or it might be another of the beautiful tools that we loved that Instagram, for whatever reason, decided to abandon.
It may come back in a week or two, I guess, but it's not there at the moment.
Yeah. Yeah, we had a couple of other people commenting that Instagram doesn't do that anymore and that it's changed a few things the past few weeks. So sorry.
I've been on holiday, forgive me.
That's the thing about social media marketing. If you go on holidays for a week, you can come back and the landscape of things can change so rapidly in a week. My question is, if I'm just about starting out with my Instagram or really want to up my game or planning to invest more time, how much time do you invest into the hashtag research? How much time you would say to do it one-off, and how regularly and frequently you would go back to it to kind of top up?
Okay, it depends really how seriously you're prepared to take hashtags. I remember it was enough to make a difference for me. I remember setting a timer to sit there for an hour and investigate hashtags, and I found loads of different ones, and I checked that they were relevant, and I made some lists, and I found some smaller ones. I think that was really key, to take the time to find the smaller, more niche ones that can be really truly effective, especially when you've got a smaller account. And I just put aside an hour for that, and that made a difference to the reach I found on my hashtags from my posts. I think honestly it's probably worth doing that every month or two. If you wanted to really go to town, I mean, you could spend hours on it, but we probably haven't got that much time to spend on hashtags. But if you want to keep up to date with it, check that you know the functions, like I just didn't, that kind of thing, you know, once a month, once every couple of months. I think it's a really good use of your time, actually, because it keeps you fresh across what's going on in those hashtags as well, what kind of content you're seeing there. You know, it might just give you some new ideas that help keep you motivated too. It's not just about finding those. You might find some new accounts that are really inspiring to follow. There's all different kinds of reasons why it's worthwhile putting a little bit of time aside for it.
Yeah, we have a comment from Claire who says that she used display purposes for kind of research and analytics, that it gives a quite good insight for
display purposes. Is that an app? Is that an app? Or I've not heard of it.
Yeah, it's a web app, literally displaypurposes.com, and it is similar to Hashtagify Me for Twitter, where it's been around for a while. That if you're doing similar hashtag research for Twitter, then often, you know, figuring out which hashtags work on Twitter, even though it's not as powerful on Twitter as it is definitely on Instagram. But this app gives you a better ideas on, again, the size, and it usually shows you a mind map of what hashtags might be related to the hashtag that you're searching for. So that's one tip from our community, because someone have mentioned it ages ago, and definitely our community jumped on using this one. Tana says, yeah, she uses it and it's really good too. So that's fantastic. I will give people a minute or two. If they have any last minute questions, please let us know. If not, I will encourage you, Helen, to let us know where can people find you, remind them, and, you know, let us know where we can connect with you. And
I would love you to connect with me. I am at Not About the Kids on Instagram, and I have actually got a hashtags workbook that I'm releasing on Wednesday next week. And if you would like to know about that, and if you might like to attend any of my learning events in future, go to my Instagram bio and sign up for my newsletter. I also will treat you to my weekly social media news and marketing roundup, which is called The Switch, which is an email that I publish on a Friday morning, and it gets lovely feedback. I'm proud of it. It's one of the things I really enjoy doing during the week, is sharing kind of a roundup of news and good things to listen to and click on. Or you can go to my website, notabout-thekids.com, or just Google Not About the Kids, and you'll kind of see what I have to offer there. There's a few downloadables, some tips on how to take good photos. You can download that, and you can download an free exercise that will help you really nail your Instagram profile so that it turns anybody that visits it into a follower.
Oh,
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I will definitely share links. I will update the description, and I will share links to your.
Oh.
And once the hashtag freebie is ready, we'll definitely send people to the landing page over there, because yeah, it's great that we have you here to give us the introduction to it, and I really hope that people will take the time to.
It's really, it is just so worthwhile just finding the right hashtags for your work, rather than just kind of like, that'll do, that sounds like the right kind of thing. It's really worth just a little bit of time investment, but it does involve time investment. It's not that easy.
And one thing that I thought about is when you were talking about the sizes of hashtags. Then one of the things, if you use the smaller ones, they usually have bigger longevity, because there's obviously not as much competition. So even though you might not get initially a huge amount of views, the views might keep going for not a day. So it is worth experimenting with big ones and small ones in the even micro, where it on the top.
You could even use ones that have got like 500 uses. If you click into it and it looks like it's, so long as it looks like it's active, do you know what I mean? Like, it's not posts that were posted 5 years ago and things like, if it looks like it's active and healthy and it's the right kind of content, absolutely put it on your post 100%. Also, because it could be something that's ultra relevant in terms of people purchasing from you. It could be like wedding cakes in Reading or something, which won't have a lot of uses attached to it, but if somebody wants to find a wedding cake maker in their there could be real sales benefits to using the smaller ones as well.
I just thought of a question. In the beginning, you mentioned the different numbers of hashtags you could use for posts in a grid, Instagram stories and stuff like that. When it comes to Instagram stories, you can use, I think, 10, 11 hashtags. Does it matter if I put them as a sticker hashtag or as just a text?
No, not really. There's no, it doesn't really matter. There's all kinds of like, do you know what? I've never had a great deal of success using hashtags on stories. I wouldn't devote a lot of time to typing them into your stories. The times I would use them, I think, is if you were taking part in a challenge and you wanted to make sure that people were seeing your content, or if you're running a challenge and you want to make people use your hashtag or your, one that you created, or if you're at a specific location, you want to make sure that's seen, or you're at a protest, I don't know. Those are the kind of times when it might be worthwhile, taking the extra time to add your hashtags to stories. But in terms of general discoverability, they're gone in 24 hours. Are you searching for stories using hashtags? Probably not so much, so it's using it thoughtfully. I think that where it's worth putting in the time is with your main feed posts, and maybe reels. It might be a little bit too early to say how effective hashtags are with reels. They're really ineffective with IGTV for some reason, so I don't know if that'll be different with reels or not.
Awesome, this is perfect. Thank you so much, Helen. We get so much positive feedback. People are loving it.